Well, what a final session of play we've had at Trent Bridge. Things tend to happen in the final sessions in Test match cricket. And what a start India have made to this tour of England, or this Test series in England. This is ESPN Cricket for Matchday. We will look back at the action as it unfolded on day one with Stephen Harmison and VVS Laxman. Let me go to Laxman first up. Could India have possibly asked for a better first day of this tour, VVS?
Oh no, I think especially after losing a toss,
Yeah.
and Joe Root decided to bat first, which was a right call, and then to bowl them out in that fashion, just for 183 runs. But more than the score, England buckled down. What I felt was the kind of dismissals, the kind of body language, the kind of technique which was exhibited by the English batsmen, barring Joe Root to some extent, Johnny Bairstow and Zach Crowley. I think India will be really thrilled
Hmm.
with the first day's performance, and they'll be really excited, as we told even before the start of the series, that they start as favorites, and India now will be thinking that this is the time for us to stamp our authority.
Steve, 138 3 going into tea. How have England gone from that to 183 all out, including that 6 for 22 in a span of 10 overs? Could you make sense of that hour after tea?
I can make sense of it because it's happening far too often for England. England won in, I think it was it Chennai first Test match, and that was the ninth win out of their last 12 Test matches. But there was signs during that time, especially in Sri Lanka. Joe Root played Sri Lanka by himself in Sri Lanka. But since
Hmm.
then, I think they've had one score of 300 plus, one score of 250 plus, one score of 200 plus, and nine scores under 20. In the last nine Test matches, they've had 31 scores of zero, and 21 of them have been in the top seven. So your answer to your question is yes, I've seen it coming. Unfortunately, we've seen it far too often. Do you blame the players? Do you blame the system? Well, the system doesn't help. And what I mean by that is we are nearly 20 weeks into a cricket season in England, and we have picked three players to play in Test match cricket who haven't played a first class match in 20 weeks. 60% of the summer so far has gone, and we've picked three players who have not played a first class game. So when you're asking, did you see the writing on the wall? Did you see it coming? Yes, I did. And who's to blame? Well, the players have to take some responsibility. A couple of them are senior players who haven't played first class in Butler and Bairstow. Bairstow looked okay until he got one, until he got a straight one, which he fell over. Butler looked all at sea. He was put out of his misery. So I think from an England point of view, it was embarrassing. There's so much on the shoulders of Joe Root, and without Ben Stokes for these five Test matches, this could be a long old 6 weeks for the England cricket team. I'm not
Hmm.
sure Virat Kohli, in his wildest dreams last night, could have predicted a deer like he's had today. Honestly, he's going to go to bed tonight dreaming exactly the same way as he did last night, because it couldn't have gone any better for the Indian captain.
Some strong words from Steve Lakshman, including some pretty scathing numbers. This was the fear from an English point of view. Is your batting strong enough? Can you manage in the absence of Ben Stokes? Just from a batting perspective, though, you said you were disappointed with how wickets fell after. Take me through some of them, perhaps. Josh Butler, we know, is a formidable white ball player. He has, every now and then surprised in red ball cricket. What was most disappointing in the manner in which England's batters fell today?
Well, the technique, right from Rory Burns, Sibley, all the technique is very flawed, and I'm really surprised because they grow up on pitches which assist swing bowling, seam bowling, conditions which assist the fast bowlers, and you expect them to be technically correct, and a lot of the players I played against, all the English batsmen I played against, even when I played for Lancashire, all of them focus on having their basic foundation right and strong. Whereas when you see these young batsmen or the players who just started their test careers, a lot of their techniques are compromised. And that's the reason when you play against quality fast bowlers like Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Shami, you will be found wanting. And that's exactly what has happened in this innings. That is exactly what has happened against New Zealand because New Zealand also has quality fast bowlers. And as Steve rightly mentioned, that's been the problem for them over the last 2 years. And I just feel that somehow they're focusing overly on T20 cricket, World Cup, which they won in 2019, and now they want to win the T20 World Cup, which is in October this year. But while doing that, I think they've compromised on the longer version of the game, which is really disappointing.
It's only one innings in this tour. Maybe things can turn around. We've seen tours, long tours get turned around. But Stephen Harmison's pointed out that this isn't new. This is a pattern that's developing. It is something that is concerning in English cricket. So we'll reserve judgment just for a bit longer. We might see this again. But I want to ask both of you what the story of today is, Steve. Is it an expected England batting collapse, which was always on the cards, like you said? Or is it India's bowlers that have been right on the money, and that perhaps even if England's batters weren't as much to blame, or their preparation wasn't as much to blame, would have still found it hard? Is the story more about India's bowlers today?
Yeah, I think it is. I think the Indian bowlers bowl well, but it's Test cricket, and VVS will back me up on this. And Test cricket is tough. It's tough. You've got to ride it out, and you've got to stand there and acknowledge the bowler's going to bowl well. The batsman's going to play good innings. The batsman's going to absorb pressure, and then he's going to cash in. He's going to counteract once the bowler is tired. You earn the right to score runs. You earn the right to take wickets. India bowled well today, but I'm not sure they earned the right, as in Test match right, to go and bowl England out for 183. I think England gives some cheap wickets away. Story of the day, how well Joe Root batted, went past Sir Alistair Cook, getting to the leading run scorer in the history of the game for England. So that's a big story of the day. And then when India came out to bat, what did they do? Well, their batters batted in a Test match fashion. Didn't move. They picked the bat up. They left the ball well. Understood where off stump was. Acknowledged good bowling in Broad Anderson and in Robinson and Curran. And they said, right, you're going to have to come to us. England didn't do that, and that's why England are so far behind the 8 ball at this moment in time. It does look as though it's going to be a long, long way back for the England cricket team.
I'm going to come to that 13-over period where Rahul and Rohit have managed to get through to stumps without losing one. But just focusing on the Indian bowlers for a bit longer, VVS, we have seen at times at the start of a big tour, India's bowlers perhaps don't quite have things right. The line length, it takes a little time to get into it. They did seem right on the money today. How much credit can we give India's bowlers for that all-round effort?
Oh, fantastic. It was fantastic bowling effort right from the first over Jasprit Bumrah bowled, and the way he set up Rory Burns and got his wicket. And I think what mistake they did in the World Test Championship final, I think they just rectified. And the only way you can do that is by going to nets, to your training sessions, and working hard to improve, and improve on the areas of concern. And that's why I thought the story of of the day is the way Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami bowled. Both of them hit the right lengths, which is so important if you have to be penetrative and effective in English conditions. And that's great news for Indian fans, because while a lot is expected from the entire team, but to win Test series or to win Test matches consistently, you want to have at least 2 or 3 bowlers who are in top form and top rhythm. And what we have seen today is Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami are in top rhythm.
Who's the standout bowler of the day for you, Steve? Because it's also worth pointing out 2 of these bowlers are playing their first Test in England, in Shardul Thakur and Mohammad Siraj. It was almost essential that both Bumrah and Shami have great days. If this was the bowling combination India were to go with, without Ashwin as well. So it's one of those things which both of them seem to have gotten right, where the margin would have been a lot lesser looking at the rest of the bowling attack.
Yeah, I thought Siraj and Thakur bowled well when they were asked upon, and I think they didn't let their captain down. And there was a lot of talk about Ashwin and whether he was going to play or not. But for me, Mohammad Shami was the bowler of the day. I think Bumrah got some nice wickets at the end. It's always good for the fast bowler to pick up a couple of rabbits at the end in Broad Anderson, and that's what Jasprit Bumrah does. If you can get a team 6 down, 7 down, it's like having a world-class leg spinner or a top spinner. You know that if he gets one, he's going to blow the tail away. That's what a good quick bowler does, and that's what Bumrah did. But I think it was set up. It was set up by a partnership of a combination of all the bowling attack. And but I think for me, as a bowler, I was in awe of the way Mohammad Shami bowled today. I thought his lengths were impeccable. I thought his lines were better after lunch, but he didn't give too much away before lunch. And on ESPN Cricket Info a couple of weeks ago, it was asked by somebody to Dale Steyn, what is the key of bowling well in England? It's
Yeah.
the length you bowl. Stay relentless, hit the lengths, make the batsman come forward, let the conditions suit the ball to get the ball to move. And I thought Shami was brilliant at that today.
You go with that, BVS. Shami, standout bowler of the day, carrying on from the World Test Championship.
No, absolutely. I think he was very consistent right from the word go, and throughout the day, the way he bowled, in all the spells he bowled today. But I just felt that Jasprit Bumrah was probably excellent in the first spell and probably in the last spell. In the second spell, I thought he was just again hitting that length. Maybe I was watching, and I would like to know this from Steve. Is there any uh, theory going with this new Duke's ball, because I've been hearing a lot of commentators also saying that in the middle overs, right from 30 to 45 or 50 overs, the ball stops moving, and then post 50 overs, again, it starts to do a lot more. And that is something which we saw today. Because post T, again, you saw the ball move a lot more than post lunch session.
Yeah,
Steve?
what you have in England at the minute with the Duke ball is the word is from the bowlers in first class cricket as well as Test cricket. There's about between 8 and 10 overs, the lacquer comes off the ball and then it swings a little bit more, so it tends to shape. And what I mean by shape is it goes off. The bowler tends to use the angle. You'll get some like Jimmy Anderson. I'll use the angle of the crease to try and get the ball just to slightly shape away, move away. But when it swings at its sort of best and its most is when that little lacquer comes off the ball. They can get a good shine on the ball. They can get the ball to move, a little bit more, both in and away. And then, especially at Trent Bridge, because if you notice, there's a lot of pitches because they haven't got their own net facility off ground. They have to use the main ground for practice. So I think there was 3 nets on one side of the strip square, 3 nets on the other side of the square. What normally happens there is there's a lot more chance of reverse swing, very dry. That's why there's a lot more grass on the surface to try and keep it together. So that's why between around about 38 to sort of 50 overs is where you see the ball not moving conventionally, and then you'll see teams trying to make the ball reverse swing and get it to go. Today, I thought India didn't need the reverse swing because they got England were all at sea with conventional.
So from your answer, Steve, what I gather is this more? Is this? I know it's not scientific, but is it more to do with how old the ball gets, or is it about the time of day and the overhead conditions? We tend to associate that more with England, but is this more strictly on a certain period that the Duke's ball, starts moving more?
I think it's the ball. The ball starts moving more after about 8-10 overs through the year. But then, if you notice, throughout the day, there was a lot of cloud cover that came over. There was some rain forecast in Nottingham today, but it didn't come. It seemed to go down the side. It went down the river, which can happen at Trent Bridge. It goes down with the river, it goes down the Trent, and it just misses the outskirts of the cricket ground. But what that does is it brings hot and humid conditions for England, and it gets the ball to swing. So even though the ball was, you were probably looking at it not swinging from around about 40 overs, the cloud came over, it was a bit humid, and then it got it to go again. And what that does for the bowlers is that in a passage of play when there's not much happening and you're just about to start getting a bit tired, a bit frustrated, a bit leggy, and you're thinking, you know what, this is going to be tough. Bairstow's getting in with Root looks well. As soon as the clouds come over and it starts to swing, all of a sudden you get a little bit of a second burst, a little bit of a confidence booster, a second wind as a bowler. And I thought that's what India got today. Once they got Bairstow out, the clouds came over, it got the ball moving again, and they never looked back from there.
That's very fascinating what you're saying, Steve. If you could allow me, Laxman, just one more, then I'll come back to you. Was an example of that, the Joe Root wicket. It seemed to catch him a bit by surprise. There seemed to be some late swing on offer. How much credit to the bowler and how much of it just bowling that ball at that time when the ball's doing a bit more?
Yeah, I think you give the bowler a little bit of credit. I keep talking to young bowlers, especially I've watched a lot of junior cricket over the course of the last sort of 6 or 8 weeks, trying to get kids to understand that holding the ball to swing the ball away and it goes away. You can turn the ball around, or you can hold it a little bit canted seam or cross seam, and you don't want it to swing in, you just don't want it to swing away. It goes on a little bit straight. It gives you a little bit of natural variation. And I think that's what happened with Joe's wicket. But I think you put yourself in Joe Root's position. He's watching he's won the toss, he's batted first, he's got wickets flying all around him. And all of a sudden he sees Sam Curran come out to bat at number 8. And England are in a lot of trouble. And maybe there was just a concentration lapse there from Joe, and India have picked up a valuable wicket just to give them enough to knock England's tail over.
Maybe yes. If you could break down the Joe Root wicket for me, how much fall to a well set Joe Root, and how much credit to Shardul Thakur?
Yeah, I think full credit to Shardul Thakur. I mean, you can't give only. You don't just talk about Joe Root losing concentration, because as a captain of the team, you want him to carry on irrespective of what's happening at the other end, and you want to make it count, But I think it was brilliant bowling from Shardul Thakur, and what we have seen from Shardul Thakur, whenever the condition is helpful for swing bowling, he pitches the ball right up. And I thought Joe Root was just surprised with the late movement which Shardul Thakur got, and that's why he was beaten and he was plumb in front of the wicket. I think the length again was very critical. I always feel that in these kind of conditions, the fuller you bowl, even if it lands in that over pitch area, it's better than bowling back of length or short of good length. And I think full credit to Shardul Thakur for the way he planned that dismissal, and he's not afraid, to pitch the ball up. Even if he gets it through the cover region for a couple of boundaries, still he wants to bowl the ball up and look to swing the ball, which is what a captain like Virat Kohli would want from Shardul Thakur.
All right. Now focusing on India's batting, and if they were 2 or 3 down, suddenly we have a different tone or context to this show. But they've managed to get to stumps without wicket loss. That would have been an important 39 balls for KL Rahul, you'd think, VVS?
Yeah, I think both for KL Rahul and Rohit Sharma. Yeah, more so for KL Rahul because he's playing Test match cricket after a long gap. But having said that, both these openers, want to again sort of prove themselves that they can perform in English conditions. Rohit Sharma, he's playing his second Test match in these conditions. I thought he batted well in World Test Championship final, even though he didn't convert that start into a big score. And KL Rahul, as I mentioned before, is a batsman who's got a good basic technique, and at the same time, he's got a lot of shots at his disposal. But they also realize that seeing off the new ball and this tricky period of play, which always the openers or the number 3 batsmen have to encounter at the end of the day's play, especially when the opposition team is bowled out cheaply. I think they knew that they had to just see through the day and then come back fresh tomorrow and start afresh tomorrow. But having said that, I think this has been the game plan from Rohit Sharma, especially in overseas condition. He's not as expressive as he's probably in white ball cricket. He takes his time, he respects the good deliveries, and whenever the ball is short, he looks to play the back foot punch or the back foot cut shot, or anything on his stump. He uses his wrist or plays with a straight bat towards mid-on and back towards the side screen. He's got his game plan set. It will be interesting to see how KL Rahul approaches his inning tomorrow.
What can we expect tomorrow then, Steve? On this surface, there's a bit of rain that's in the forecast for the second half of tomorrow, but tomorrow morning, India's batters, best time to bat?
You'd think so. You'd think it'd be the best time to bat. It just depends if there's any sort of cloud cover that comes over. But I think VVS summed it up perfectly there. The way the Indian batsmen came out and their mindset came out, it was beautiful. Anderson and Broad bowled, wide of off stump because in reality that's where you get Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul out. That's how you try and get them to play away from the body. Predominantly very, very good white ball players, but I thought the disciplines they showed were unbelievable. And it was a lesson to the England batsmen. A lot of moving parts in the England batsmen against a moving ball, recipe for disaster. Rahul and Rohit Sharma standing still, picking the bat up, coming down straight, leaving the ball well, showing good discipline against 2 very, very good bowlers. And if they do that tomorrow morning, overcome that first passage of half an hour, 40 minutes, then I really think they can make here, as long as the clouds don't hang around all day. If the bright sun shines out tomorrow, I think it could be a long old day for the England bowlers in the field.
Yeah, you get that impression. Cricket changes quickly, VVS, but you and a number of other experts and former cricketers have predicted India to be favourites here. This is one thing Virat Kohli's Indian team is yet to conquer, an overseas win in England in Test cricket. Do you think right now, I know it's only the first day of a long tour, but there is a quiet confidence as the Indian team goes back to the hotel tonight, knowing that this could very much be the pattern for the rest of the series? You think this is as good a feeling as this team would have had at the start of a big tour?
Yeah, while it was on expected lines,
Yeah.
Ronak, but I think Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri will definitely talk to the entire team and will address the issue of not being complacent. Because even in the past we've seen, if suppose you have a good start to any match and suddenly the next day morning you lose early wickets either through lack of application or just the complacency creeping in, then all the hard work done the previous day will be nullified. So I think Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri are very clear on this line. They want to go out and execute their game plans. Yes, the bowlers have executed the game plans and achieved their targets. Now it's a turn of the batting lineup to execute their game plan and achieve the batting goals. And what is required to win this test series is to bat big in the first innings. And that's exactly what both the captain and the coach will be talking with the batting lineup and the batting unit, that irrespective of how much England has scored, you're not supposed to think about that. What we require you to do is achieve our batting goal, which probably will be to play minimum 120 to 140 overs,
Hmm.
irrespective of whatever score you end up with. And that's exactly what they will be talking. And also, they want to see more hundreds from the batsmen. It's not only being contented with good starts, getting to a 50, 60, 70. They want to see 100. They want to see 150. They want to see double 100 on this tour from the batsmen, and that's what exactly the entire squad will be thinking at the moment.
All right. Why don't we pick up this conversation after we've seen another session of play on day two? What a cracking start to this tour. More for India than for England, but I'm talking specifically about VVS Laxman and Stephen Harmison. They've been in fine form. No rustiness from either of you, whatever the format may be. I expect nothing better or nothing less rather, from VVS and Steve. Thank you, gentlemen. We will speak tomorrow on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. What a start for India to this series. They'd surely be feeling like this is there for the taking if they can keep this sort of level up. But it is a big series, and it is one which has Anderson and Broad in the opposition. We'll see how India's batters respond tomorrow. Join us for ESPN Cricket for Match Day on day two. Bye bye.